Brian Pritchard, FetchYourNews.com, FYN reports. It's October, and that means one thing. It's election season here in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and I'm here joined with currently holding post 2 seat in the city of Blue Ridge, Rhonda Thomas, and is being currently challenged by Kathleen Setzer. Ms. Thomas, thanks for coming and sitting down with us. Our goal at FetchYourNews.com is to get the most information and provide it to the citizens when they go vote November 5th. So let's look at a little bit of your post 2, and you're currently up for re-election. So you have, how many terms have you held this post?
I've been in this position 1 term, this is the end of my first term, 4 years. We have 4-year terms with our current council. And
you've served. You're in your final year of your first term. What made you want to go into politics, or especially go into serving the citizens of Blue Ridge?
Well, I've always felt like it's your civic duty to do something for your community. And 4 years ago, I was just really led to do this. I felt like that we needed some change in our local government. And I felt like at the city level, that's probably where I could be most effective. And so I decided to run for office. I won by 7 votes the last time and beat a very tough opponent. But I think some positive changes have taken place during the course of my 4 years.
Well, I would say to anybody that in the last 4 years, anybody that held a position in the last 4 years has probably seen challenges, whether it's in a city, a county, a state, whatever level that is unprecedented in what we have in the history of this country. So that being said, what I would like to look at is I think there's the thing about that's interesting with Blue Ridge. You don't go many places, and I mean states, different states, or anywhere that they don't know about Blue Ridge. How has Blue Ridge done that? Projected themselves out there as a national little city here in the mountains that people flock to.
It's becoming a tourist destination, and I think we have to look at what we have to offer and people who are coming into our community. And usually people who are coming up here, they're coming to Blue Ridge to get away. I think just by namesake, that's really something that we can appreciate, because Blue Ridge, when you think of Blue Ridge, you think of Blue Ridge Parkway, Blue Ridge Mountains. And so a lot of people probably when they type in something, Blue Ridge Parkway, Blue Ridge Mountains, Blue Ridge automatically pops up this quaint little town, and people can appreciate it through the chamber. I mean, they have done so much to advertise and show the public that all we have to offer. So it's automatically becoming a tourist destination. And not to mention the fact we have Mercier's orchards and so many hiking trails and Lake Blue Ridge. There's so many things to offer. So the city itself has to gear up to be ready to handle that as it's growing year by year.
Well, Blue Ridge has turned into quite the tourism destination. How is that, and because this is the interesting part, how has that been a positive for the city of Blue Ridge? You're opposed to, so talk about what Blue Ridge becoming a tourist destination, what that has done in the last 4 years for the city of Blue Ridge.
Well, just for the city itself, I mean, if you look at it, when you have visitors, especially weekend visitors, people who are coming up to spend a week in a cabin, they come in, they buy local groceries, they're buying gas, they're paying a hotel motel, so they're supplying money to either a hotel, cabin rental company, or an individual cabin rental company, like a VRBO. You have people coming and shopping in all areas of town, not just downtown. They're shopping throughout town, purchasing different items. And when you have money coming in, of course, you have a tax base. And the more money we have coming in, the more money we have with tax revenue to improve the city. And to help the citizens with different, even in my department, say for instance roads, we have what's called SPLOST tax. We work with the county, and the citizens have voted to keep that in until 2015. And that money, we get a certain percentage that goes, it's earmarked specifically for roads. And so we have been able to pave 26 areas, just paving, in Fannin County since I've been in office during the last 4 years. And that money comes specifically from SPLOST.
Well, what would you say to this? in the way I've been trying to look at this, Blue Ridge is interesting because you have the business community. I won't say it like this, but the only way I can articulate it is you have your business community that is thriving and I would say booming. If anybody came up here just outside looking in, you can't get through them downtown and on the weekend. But then there's the voting population, the citizens that live in Blue Ridge. How about the services for them? Are the services for them adequate, or would they have concerns? I mean, recently we had a water main break. Not to pinpoint it, but we were a couple hours or several hours from being dry.
Yes, we were.
Okay. That's got, the business community downtown, but these are the citizens that are getting up and having a major, the infrastructure in Blue Ridge, a lot of it goes back to the 70s. I think this pipe was actually a 70s pipe that was busted. Talk a little bit about what the city needs to do for those citizens that live here, not the business community so much.
Well, excuse me, I've had a cold, so I do apologize for my voice. When I came into office 4 years ago, and I came in with Mayor Whitener, one of our goals was to implement a plan that we have. You have a 5-year plan, you have a 10-year plan, and you have a 20-year plan. Because you've got to think of growth in the future. You can't just think of what do we need today. You've got to think what we need for the future. So when we came into office, and I'm not downing any previous administration, I'm just saying there was nothing really in place that was a projected plan. So one of our goals was let's look at water, let's look at sewer, let's look at the roads, let's see what needs to be done. But you've got to do it together. And for the citizens, a lot of the pipes that they have, yeah, they're old and they need to be replaced. And so we have tried to work with the water department in implementing a plan. Let's identify what roads, what areas need new piping. And also sewer, how can we expand our sewer in order to accommodate future growth? So those are things that I've done in conjunction with Mayor Whitener, Harold Herndon. We've all worked together on this and tried to implement a plan. And now I will have to say the city has improved a lot because we have a system now where we have every road identified where sewer and water is located. Bill Sowers is currently going through this system and trying to identify the oldest pipes because we know where they're at, but it's just a matter of having to replace them. And that's where your money comes in from tourism. The people who are coming and spending this money, they're going to give us funds to upgrade those water systems, thus helping the citizens.
Is that one of the priorities in that is important to City Council, regardless of who the post positions are or the mayor? Is that one of the serious priorities that have to be looked at? Is the infrastructure in the city? I
would hope so, and I think that's why it's so important that we keep people in place, such as Mayor Whitener and myself, people who understand this and who can continue with this growth. Because not necessarily, you might have a new administration who comes in and they don't care anything about that. Maybe they don't see that that's an important issue. But obviously it is, because without those services, the city can't operate. I mean, for instance, if we would have run out of water, how would you have identified the leak? I mean, you can't identify a leak when you have no water coming out. There's no water in the water tower. And that, that's another issue too, even with that. Maybe we need to look at purchasing new equipment that will readily identify where we have water leaks, because maybe, bigger cities have those. And it does cost money, but sometimes you do have to invest in something that's going to protect your community. Our schools could not operate. We were going to have to evacuate the nursing homes. It wasn't going to be a good situation. So with that, I think sometimes you have to spend money in order to protect your community. But you've got to have people in place who understand that.
Sales tax revenue. That's how that happens.
Yeah, sales tax revenue. Yeah.
And keeping the SPLOST in place.
Yeah.
And how much does the county get monthly from the SPLOST? Do you know what
the
city? I'm sorry, city. How much does the city get?
On an average, we receive between $15,000 and $20,000. And again, that's earmarked specifically for road construction. And if you drive around Blue Ridge, you can see where the money it's been used wisely.
So the city possibly receives around $20,000 a month in the SPLOST.
Yeah.
And I do know from research in other counties that it's probably close to 50% of that, could be more, but close to 50% of that comes from outside the county, meaning people coming in spending their money. So the citizens, the residents that actually live in Blue Ridge are actually going to pull the lever November 5th. You could say that the SPLOST and residents, just in that alone, could be bringing in about $10,000 a month just in that alone. That's
I would say that number's higher.
Okay. It is possibly higher.
It's possibly higher, but yeah, it's definitely.
And that's the things that the people, the residents, if you don't get it from outside, you got to go to them and say, we got to pay this bill.
Or you don't provide the services.
Do you think the SPLOST and the town and the city turning into a tourist destination has helped keep property tax low, or help keep from raising property tax, put the burden on the residents?
Yes, it definitely has. It's helped, and because we've not had to raise taxes. And I think that certainly has helped. I think one thing that helps with our system too, because we do have such a high tourist destination, your school systems aren't increasing in number, so you're not having to increase taxes for that. And a lot of places that are having a large growth, like you'll have people coming in and they have kids in the school system, so you have to start growing, your school systems have to expand. And we've not had to do that here, because most of the folks who are coming up here spending money, their kids go to school in Florida and Atlanta, different places. They're just up here visiting, and they spend their money on fun activities and dining out, shopping, and that sort of thing, zip lining, fun things like that.
Well, fun things like that, but I want to say, and the reason that Blue Ridge elections are very interesting is you have the business community and then you have the residents. Many of the business owners do live here, but a large portion do not. So it comes back to the people, and I just say, on East 2nd Street, you know, that street that doesn't have businesses, has houses in other areas of the city. I'd like to say, I see thousands. I come up as media, we come up and we cover different events in the city, whether it be a barbecue, arts in the park, light up Christmas tree, whatever it may be. I've been here many times with the crowds. Has the city made all the proper arrangements when these large amounts of crowds come in for the citizens' safety? I mean, are they safe? Is there plenty of people on staff? Or
yeah, normally what we do when we know obviously we're going to have a large event. We have 3 large events coming up the next 3 weekends. So what we do is we work with city police implementing. We have more officers on patrol for different activities, and I think that's really important, especially for pedestrian traffic. Because a lot of times, if you've been downtown, people want to park everywhere. They want to, you know, and people start parking in places they're not supposed to park, cross the roads, and which can become a danger, you know, just in crossing at a non-pedestrian crossing. So you have to have more police officers on staff to help patrol that. And I think you have to have a plan. You can't just up and say, oh, we're going to bring 20,000 people into town this weekend. You have to have a plan in place. So. And I think the city always works with the different groups who are hosting the activities to keep our citizens safe, and the visitors as well.
I want to bring up 2 things before we close. I wanted to make sure that services, you know, for the citizens of Blue Ridge, with this tourism, with infrastructure, obviously if they don't have water, you come into town. So I wanted to know how serious that was for your plan, as opposed to where that was a priority. But a couple things that I want to make sure we talk about, and a couple of the reasons I want to talk about is your opponent that is running against you has made these not issues but comments, because I don't know if they would be really issues. There's been some comments made about last year you initially put in an ice skating rink. And again, I always want to bring it up. I was here the night light up the Christmas tree. Actually, Channel 2 did a TV show called Blue Ridge was one of the 10 best hidden treasures of Georgia or something like that. But they highlighted in a special Blue Ridge the gentleman that came up that cut it. I watched him ice skating with his family. but the ice skating rink lost money, right?
Actually, it just really broke even.
Okay, well then where is the number? But now I'm not advocating for or against. I'm just saying it has come up. Where's the number 12,000 coming from? Is that it went 12,000 in the hole last year. Now it was the first year.
Yeah.
And where have you heard the number?
Actually, I have not heard that.
So you think it broke even? Is that your understanding?
That was my understanding. Because I believe what had happened, we had several businesses who contributed up to $14,000 to help get that program going. And one reason they did that is because it's something that brought tourism to this community.
Right.
Tourism is highly important. And of course, what we do with our hotel motel tax is we have to spend it on tourism. We get a certain percentage, and of course the county gets a certain percentage, and it has to be spent on advertising, for instance.
Right.
Or something that's going to bring tourism to the community. And that was one thing that we worked with a group, an independent group, and they felt like that would help bring tourism to the community. But also the county, our city actually will make money off that. If you look at the long-term contract, you can't look at the first year.
How long is the contract for?
I believe it's up to 5 years. Because really, you're not supposed to have a contract for more than 5 years by Georgia law.
Right.
Which, like my opponent, they have one for 20, which really isn't even a valid contract, because they're not leasing. They're leasing the land. Their contract is not for the screen or the buildings and all that we own. So that's something, again, that's going to have to be looked at very seriously very soon. We have a lot of citizens who are questioning all that. But back to the skating rink, I believe that, that right there, we would have a contract up to 5 years, and it shows after the city making money on that. So that is not a project that we enter into without the opportunity to make money as well, and to help bring tourism.
Well, tourism, are you telling me that the ice skating rink is a plus for downtown to create more revenue, to create more tax dollars to benefit the citizens?
Yes. Because it's something that will bring, it's yet another act, something that will bring people into our community. They want to come up and ice skate. They want to bring their kids. When you're up here ice skating, you think you're just going to come up and ice skate and leave. No. You're going to go into restaurants. You're going to go into the cupcake shop. You're going to go, buy and purchase different things throughout the community. You'll probably buy gas on your way up here or somewhere in between. I know last year we had a lot of people come up from Atlanta, especially after the Channel 2 news story. We had Atlanta, Asheville, different people, because who has outdoor ice skating? Not many folks. And it was a good opportunity for us to work with this particular group, because they donated a lot of the materials and everything last year for the rink itself. So it was kind of a win-win for the city.
Well, so you're in full support of bringing the ice rink back, and you think it's a positive upside for the city, the business owners, and the residents that live within the city limits.
Especially our residents, and not only the residents within the city limits, it's residents, the kids who are in the community. Right now we're working on a program with them to supply kids who are underprivileged the opportunity to skate free of charge. And I think that's a great opportunity in our community. We have a lot of people who really can't afford to buy groceries, much less pay for their kids to go ice skating. So those kids will have a great opportunity to do something enjoyable. And we will be offering that. We're going to work with groups to get that free of charge for those kids in our community. And that's who we need to look out for, the kids in our community. They don't have a lot to do. And I think that's one thing that give them an opportunity to have something fun to do after school on the weekends.
Let me bring up, you brought it up, so you brought this up, so I'm going to address it. The city has assets, okay? And the city has assets, and as a post-2 council person, you're charged with, by the residents, to do the best on their assets. They're not yours, they're the residents of Blue Ridge, the taxpayers' assets, and they belong to the city of Blue Ridge. I went and pulled open record reports. And now, in disclosure, I don't know legally if Kathleen Setzer is the owner of the drive, and I do not. Mr. Setzer got upset because I made a reference to that. No intention, no harm, no foul. So I don't know legally if she's the owner, but Steve Setzer is the name on the lease. So in fairness, she's not on the lease, but she's very much using the drive-in as part of her campaign, okay, which is a city asset. That is, I brought up, and that was a big issue last year. I went and pulled the marina's lease and the term and the length and the conditions, and I've pulled the depot, the train. I pulled that lease with the terms and conditions, as you can see, and I pulled the drive-ins. And, you know, the marina's paying the citizens of Blue Ridge. And I like to say it that way because it's their money, not the city of Blue Ridge. The marina, to me, is paying the citizens of Blue Ridge $1,300 a month to use that marina, okay? The depot is paying $3,245.23 a month for the depot. Obviously, it may be the drive-in is paying $500 a month.
Right.
How can that's almost only 1/3. It's like it's only close to 1/3 of the marina and far less than the depot. How can you, as a post to council person, how can the mayor, how can you look at the citizens and say there's parity in the assets that you decided you would? I mean, what?
I can't. To me, that is just a travesty that ever happened, because it is very unfair. And what is unfair is unfair to the taxpayers, the people who, that's their money.
Right.
And to me, that is the most unfair thing I have encountered since I've been in office. I tried to get that changed 2 years ago, and that I would feel safe to say that may be why I have an opponent this time. Because I'm sure that they would not want, if you had a little honey hole and you're a bear, you wouldn't want someone taking that honey hole away. And to me, someone paying $500 a month, that is a shame to the taxpayers. And I would be ashamed to even run for office if I was taking advantage of taxpayers the way she's taking advantage of the taxpayers. But let me take that back, the way her husband is taking advantage of the taxpayers. That's awful. And I've actually run into adversity with council members that I've been on the council with the past 4 years. Rodney Kendall, Michael Eaton wanted to keep it the same, and it's not fair. It's just not fair.
What do you say about if they say, just like you said, the ice rink, you know, I don't know if it lost money, I'm not going to argue that fact, but you say the ice rink's a good idea and it's a positive, and you said that, you just said to me, you said, but they come in and they get a motel room, or they come in and they eat. You know, this is one of the few landmark drive-ins in the South or in Georgia left. And there's people that travel here to bring their kids to a drive-in movie that has that. So what about that side of it?
Well, you have to look at it. The ice rink is completely, the contract is made it completely separate. What we're doing is supplying them a place in the park. And this business, they have the setup cost, and the way the contract is written, they take onus of the responsibility for running this. They're advertising everything. And then the city actually makes money after a certain percentage of people have come through there. So we're making money. Now, it could be the same with the drive-in. We could make money on that. The city could run that. And because it is, as you mentioned, there are only a few left in the country, that makes it even more special. People come from all over. This summer, my daughter had a picture taken with a famous Braves player there, and it's, you know, there are people who are coming from all over to this drive-in because it is unique and it is special, and it's not a failing business. It's a thriving business. So it's not fair, you know. But I think you have to compare the contracts, and you have to look at what's going on with the ice skating rink. It's not that the city says, here, we want to supply this. It's not our ice skating rink. What we're doing is supplying a space for it. We're supplying it in the city park.
Well, let me ask you something directly, because I was, and I'd like for the viewers that watch this to know, we have the video of all of the discussions. We were there, and you know that FetchYourNews.com was there through all of the discussions with the drive-in lease. We were there and videoed all of it. I've gotten so many phone calls on it. It is an issue, no matter who says it's not. It is an issue to citizens in the city. But my question to you is, so would you look at me and tell me you're not opposed to Steve Setzer having the drive-in? You're opposed to the value of the lease that Steve Setzer pays.
My thing with Steve is, if Steve wants to be honorable to our community and uphold the integrity of the community, that's great. But he needs to pay fair market value, and that's what I have said. And if you have recorded any of our meetings, you know that that's what I've said over the past 2 years. It's just fair. It's fair to the citizens, and that's what we have to be fair. And if I took this office and I said, oh, it's okay for you to pay $500 a month, it's not okay. That's what he has. Anyone and anybody in this community would love that opportunity. He did not build the drive-in. The Jones family built the drive-in. He simply was an employee of the Joneses. And when Miss Jones decided she did not have in good health, she wasn't able to run the drive-in anymore, she allowed him to take over this lease. And it's not fair for the citizens at all.
So you're just asking that a lease that has parity in the value, because obviously I want the viewers out there to know there's a difference in the value of the marina, and there's a difference in the value of the depot, and there are differences in the asset value, but all you would like is some parity. This is real disparity between this one and the other two. All you would like is parity. If I asked you, all you want is parity in the value of the assets that belong to the citizens, and you would be okay regardless of the name that's on there.
I would, yes, I would, and I would like the contract also to include something that would not allow people to make fun of other people. I think that the particular leasee has a mayor burger, which is really in poor taste, and it's really we've had a complaint. We actually had a letter written to the city where a lady who's overweight, she felt like she was being made fun of, and to me that's really wrong. And that's part of our city, that's our property, and we don't want that to come back on us, because she wrote a letter to the city stating how disappointed she was that we allowed people to make fun of fat people, obese people, I should say. And that's horrible.
Well, you keep bringing things up, and if you wouldn't bring things up, I wouldn't say anything. But that being said, for our viewers out there, Ms. Thomas brings up the Swan Drive-In Theater Mayor Burger. Now, I received this at the Swan Drive-In Theater. It says Swan Drive-In Theater, and it has vote for Kathleen Setzer and let's give Blue Ridge back to the people. On the back is the menu of the Swan Drive-In Theater, and the center marquee is the new item, the Mayor Burger. I don't know what your opponent's issues are. I know how much I could pay for a Mayor Burger, and I know how much I could pay for fries. So I think the citizens of Blue Ridge have to hear a little more than negative campaigning.
I do too.
And I only say that because I do have this, and you brought that up. So I don't see where, and I use it all the time because I see it, Ms. Thomas, I see it downtown Blue Ridge, which I'm familiar, and then right there at the lights, you've got a choice of downtown Blue Ridge or East 2nd Street. Yeah. And that's why you'll always hear me say the difference of downtown Blue Ridge and East 2nd Street, because on the hill are the people that live in those houses that want their trash picked up, that want their water, want their sewer, want their property taxes, and want to be safe. And down here is the business community. So that's why you'll probably hear me say, I know City of Blue Ridge is a lot bigger, but you'll hear me say a lot of times East 2nd Street, because it's like that clearest difference.
It is.
And the citizens, the SPLOST needs renewed in 2015. Will you be supporting that?
Yes, 100%.
And okay. what is your, and that's a 1 cent tax, and it's a special purpose local option sales tax. So what does that mean to the citizens of Blue Ridge, the SPLOST?
It means they'll get their roads paved, we'll get our projects finished downtown, and that's what it means. It means we'll have, that one will be specifically earmarked for roads, for streets.
So
they'll get new streets.
That's SPLOST is bringing in $20,000 a month, and if they don't vote it back in, then that's $20,000 a month the city doesn't have to work with.
Exactly.
Okay.
And which a lot of that money too goes towards our streetscape projects, which is one of them was actually the depot project, just completing that. And again, we're waiting on money reimbursement from the state on that to continue at this point. But yeah, that goes towards that project, the streetscape projects, and then all other paving projects.
Streetscape is very nice, and it has been something that's been an outstanding positive for the business community. Right. Do you think that the citizens that live outside of that area have had as equal attention paid to their streets and roads?
Yes, they have actually. Yeah, if you go outside and look, that's what I've said. We've paved 26 streets. When I first went into office, I remember Jones Street down by North Court Apartments. We had several women who were they had flooding issues in their house. They just from runoff from severe rains, and the streets were horrible. And I had several ladies who actually they didn't drive. Their daughters took them, purchase groceries or whatever. Anyway, they begged, said, "Will you please fix this street?" So that was one of the first streets we repaired. We paved it all the way from the beginning to the end of John Street. And I had so many thank yous just from that little group of women. It was made me feel great. And we have paved numerous streets throughout the city. So you'll see that. In fact, we've paved more throughout the city than we have downtown in reality, because we've had to work with streetscape projects on those. But you'll see, if you just drive around, you'll see. So.
Last question. Biggest highlight of your first term? What is the biggest highlight in your first term that you feel an accomplishment, or a biggest highlight that you've had in your first term?
Actually, I think just helping the citizens, working with people with their streets, and like I said, just having that call from those women telling me, "Hey, thank you so much for paving the street." That makes you feel good, and you've made a difference. And I'll have to say one more thing too. I guess I've had two really good highlights. I think one thing was going in with Mayor Whitener and implementing a 5-year plan, implementing programs that help people, the citizens. Just one simple thing was a complaint form. There was never a complaint form. If people had a complaint, sometimes it kind of got lost in the shuffle. And so we developed a program where people can call in, the citizens can call in, business owners can call in, anybody if they have any sort of complaint. And they fill out the complaint, and one of our employees, the department actually has to go through and make sure that complaint is evaluated and the problem's either repaired or they're called and said, "Hey, this is something that the city doesn't handle." So that's been a really good accomplishment, just knowing we have something like that in place.
Well, Ms. Thomas, anything else today before we close that you wanted to make sure you got the opportunity to say? Or?
Yeah, I would like to say that when you vote on November the 5th, I would appreciate the consideration to put my name in that ballot and to vote for me. If you look at my record over the past 4 years, I have voted for the citizens, and I am a voice for the people. When people want to call me and complain, I'm there to listen. If they want to call and just talk about any issues, I'm always there to listen. And anytime I've voted, I have voted for the citizens. It's been in the best interest of the community. When I first went into office, I was faced with an issue of making everybody happy. And I realized you can't do that. You have people on this side wanting one thing, people on this side wanting one thing, but what you have to look at is what's best for the community and what's best for its citizens, and you vote based on what's best for everybody, for the community, for the citizens. You don't vote based on what's best for one person or one group. You have to vote at what's going to enhance the community. And my voting record will show that that's exactly what I have done. Like I said, even in the face of adversity, I vote for what's best for the community. So please take that into consideration on November the 5th.
Ms. Thomas, thank you very much for coming in and sitting down with us. This is Brian Pritchard, FetcherNews.com. We've been speaking with Rhonda Thomas, incumbent with Post 2, City Council, Blue Ridge. And don't forget, don't complain, go vote November 5th. Have your voice heard here, citizens of Blue Ridge. Thank you.